Uh, Good morning. Welcome to our daily group. My name is Pauline Joe. I'm a therapist here at Lartey Wellness Group. In today's group, I wanted to discuss a topic around cultural competency. And I'm wondering from you guys to start off with, um, how do you guys define cultural competency, say in your own words? And anyone is free to start off with.
I will start. I would say understanding a client's lifestyle, values, and what's important to them as far as um, what they need and their support as a client. So I would say communicating with them, assisting them based on their values.
I really like how you said you want to understand their lifestyle more. Could you go into how you get there?
So I might ask a client what's important to you in this process. And so, for example, I might have a client who says that they tell me that what their lifestyle is. They may say, I'm very involved in my church, so forth and so on. And so that's a cue for me to kind of, when I communicate with them, maybe ask them, what is important to them regarding, their Christianity. What are their values and how do you live your life that way? And they may say, well, I read my Bible, I participate in this, so forth and so on. So I would keep that in the back of my mind and think about that as we're in our session. And I might say, well, what is one of your favorite scriptures or something like that, and ask them, something like that to share with me, just so I know kind of what is important to them. And so what I might do in the session, I may say, based upon what the situation is that we're communicating about. Well, so based upon what they're coming to counseling for. So they may say, for example, I'm having a problem, I don't feel valued or something like that. So I may try to find maybe a biblical scripture that relates to someone's importance. Like, for instance, I may say something like, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, or something like that. And they say, yeah, I know that scripture, or something like that. So it just kind of makes it a little more cohesive when I just kind of focus on what's important to them as far as their values. And that's just an example of one thing that I could do. So, yeah.
Sure. So for you, it's important that you find what's important to them. Because
Yes.
if it is important, then that's an indicator that that's very much integrated into their lifestyle, their everyday habits, their choices,
Yes.
such.
Yes. Yes. And then sometimes the client may say something to me and say, well, this is like my favorite scripture. I really like to, use this, helps me every day when I get up. This is what I quote, this is what I do, so forth and so on. So I may keep that in my mind, that when we start our session and next time say, hey, how about, do you have a scripture for today or something like that? Would you like me to read one? And I think that would be a good way to keep that as part of our ongoing session.
I like that.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Yvonne.
You're welcome.
Uh, does anybody else have their own definition of cultural competency?
I do. When I hear that, for me, it just means that to pretty much have, I guess, like have the ability to work with people that come from different cultures. So like, um, understanding like how they communicate, maybe if they communicate in a certain way, or accept the fact that they are from a different culture, and just being respectful to to what they believe in, their values and everything. And a way to do that, kind of like what Yvonne has said, is kind of just to ask questions. Like if you're unfamiliar of how they might do certain things, just like ask them. Or there's been a situation where I had a client whose backgrounds are a little bit similar to mine, so I was able to like connect with her in a specific way. But at the same time, there were certain things that she did that I didn't do. So again, I would just ask, have her explain, and just understand, to just be respectful with the client, because sometimes there's certain things that you don't necessarily believe in as well, but of course you don't want them to know that. So just having that communication and that respect for them, that everybody's culture is different, everybody's background is different. So that's when I hear cultural competency, that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Sure. So a huge component that's important to you is being respectful. And that meaning like you're coming from a place of curiosity and wanting to build a greater rapport rather than you're saying like you're judging them.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I like that too. Does anybody else have a definition or anything that they'd like to add to what we've said?
I think that, like, multicultural is a very interesting topic for me because I'm working here. So actually, all the clients I work with are actually have different kind of cultural background with me, like from me. And so so actually multicultural like competence is very important for me. So for me, I feel like I definitely agree with what like the other two counselors have said, like we've just said. And other things I think is being curiosity, like you like being respectful, and then also like keeping curiosity. Like I think it's okay that we don't know like exactly what others cultures are, but if we're able to keep curiosity and just asking every time we have questions, and also let them recognize that we're being open, we are actually want to know about their culture, and they let them feel they're being respected and their cultures are also being respected, like as a person holistically. I think it's very good for the
Marianne McLean says, missing documents and therapy notes,
Oh,
find
gosh.
treatment
Where's
planning
that coming
documents
on?
under the client's profile. Once you
Siao, please continue.
Yeah, I think like I almost finished. Like just I feel like the cultural competence is very important for the therapeutic relationship, because like I think to show the respect, to show like the support and empathy is also like including the ability of respecting others' culture and like maintaining the curiosity to others' culture. Yeah.
So one thing I heard from you is, or of many wonderful things, is to show support and to, show that we are on the client side and that we do genuinely care for how their culture, impacts their viewpoints, their way of thinking, how they handle their mental health, and so forth. Okay, does anybody else have a definition or anything else they wanted to add? Nope. Okay, no problem. So my next question goes a little bit deeper. So I'm wondering from the group if you guys have ever experienced in the therapeutic setting where someone else noticed, say you weren't the same culture as them. How did you work with them to build that rapport or build that trust that you could get to a level of understanding?
I know personally for me in those types of situations, being open, um, maintaining that unconditional positive regard in the setting, um, and being patient and asking a lot of questions, as you mentioned earlier, coming from a place of, curiosity and kind of being open and expressing that.
Sure. So, always reminding the client that, they are the experts and that it's okay for them to acknowledge that, yeah, there is a cultural difference between us, but that I'm still here to listen. Does anybody else have a way they would handle that situation?
Yes. Um, I would probably ask um, the person to share with me um, what their culture is like, educate me about it. I would say, I'm really curious to know, tell me about your culture, and I would ask, a lot of questions, as Brittany said, I would be curious to know, um, what their culture is like. Um, because as you said before, they're the expert on what their culture is. And so I would just, you know, ask questions and not talk as much because sometimes I have, sometimes I could talk a little bit too much sometimes, and I would just be more passive in that manner to allow that person to share their culture with me. And also with that, to also be mindful of my own like biases that I may have had or assumptions. That's huge for me. So at that time, I wouldn't be as vocal. I would be more passive and allowing them to share. And just so they know that I'm listening, I'm being empathetic, and I value what's important to them.
Yvonne, that's very powerful that you mentioned that we all come from different paths in life. And with that, we have biases. And I know the word biases, or a bias can sound perhaps maybe not the most positive. But really, biases in our context just means that we, again, based on our path in life and based on our education, based on many things, we have a certain perception or a certain idea.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
and so we want our clients to help us expand our ideas. Um, and so I also like how you said to be more so passive rather
Mm-hmm.
than us you know doing the talking. The clients gotta they have to lay it out for us.
Yes.
That being said, um, kind of adding to what you guys already said, I always try to start off and just acknowledge how they're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I recognize that it may be difficult for you as a X, Y, and Z to open up to me. I recognize that I am an Asian American therapist, but I really would like to learn more about you. Or, no, I don't know everything about your culture, but I believe that all my clients can teach me something every day.
Absolutely. I love what you just said. I just love that. Yes. They're teaching us about their culture, and we're letting them know that we value their culture and that, we are here to be a support to them and realizing we don't know everything, that we're learning. Yes. I love that.
Does Thank you, Yvonne. Does anybody else have anything else they'd like to add? Okay, no problem. Um, so another topic that I was thinking about is in light of how our, world is changing and how we, as I might have mentioned the other day, we are the leaders in crisis, or we are considered a leader in crisis. I'm wondering, how have you guys approached, um, again, kind of, there's a lot of work we need to do as a nation. How do we approach when we have clients who say they are affected by a lot of these like racial movements or these racial changes, or how do we help advocate for our clients? Or I'm curious, like what you guys have in mind of that topic.
Mm.
As far as advocation, I guess the first step would be to, going back to the previous conversation of really listening, trying to figure out what that person's really feeling, or if you have kind of multiple people experiencing a similar effect, what they're feeling. And in those cases, advocation could be as simple as sharing information about what's going on and research about what's going on social media to get kind of awareness out there.
Brittany, I appreciate how you mentioned that we have this very powerful tool of researching. So we often soak in what the clients have to say. We, really try to put ourselves in their perspective, and then we often go and educate ourselves more. I'm wondering, Brittany, is there like any, I know you'd mentioned like social media, which is awesome. Are there other like places or resources that you like to do research on, maybe more cultural competency or learning more about these racial movements that are happening?
Definitely. So either kind of going in person to kind of a local social group that may be advocating at that time, um, and getting education that way, kind of in the field itself, not like right in the field, but going and getting that information in person, as well as using research as far as studies that have been done. I'm really big on kind of using studies, but if I can't find studies elsewhere, um, even looking up books on the topic and seeing if I can find anything there. But mainly, I would say, especially kind of in light of recent events, that's been my go-to, is going in person to different groups that are already advocating.
Wow, what a experience to be able to go in person. Sorry if I keep picking your brain, Brittany. You just got so many great things to say. But I'm wondering, would you be able to share like any in-person experiences and what they were like?
Yeah, so I would say back in college, that was I was in Towson, so I was near Baltimore. So when that was all going on was about, I think it was about my senior year. So I there were a lot of social groups in the school. Um, there were a lot of social groups around as well, but there were a lot of social groups through the school, which I found really beneficial, that would do different, um, kind of like, not like PowerPoints, but like videos, and like going over different things, as well as kind of discussion groups about what was going on and how it was making people feel. And um, there was also a lot of discussion in these meetings about different laws, different rights. So it was definitely very interesting to see these big issues and looking at it from multiple perspectives.
That's awesome. I've never been to Towson, but kind of what I've read online is that they're a fairly diverse school. And so I'm really glad that you were able to take that opportunity to be able to delve into that and kind of reflect back on my own, college experience. So college, I was in person, and then on graduate school, I was at Walden, so I was online. So it was a little bit more challenging in the online platform to be able to like navigate like where I was supposed to go. In college, I did try to go to like I was really into like any type of like dance shows. So whenever those would kind of come up, I'd always, be that one person by myself in the front row. And so yeah, I think sometimes by going to, as you said, being like a person in the environment gives us a lot of context as to what people are about, what they're experiencing, even what they're passionate about. Ngazi or Xiao, do you have anything that you wanted to add?
Sorry, I just been sitting back listening to what's being said because I agree with pretty much everything everybody has said. I feel like when it comes to advocating for your client is just to, I think it's like one, being educated, so doing your research, kind of like what Brittany said, doing your research and possibly like maybe interacting with different diverse groups to possibly learn more about what they believe in and I know like before COVID, I know that they used to be like different at least around where I was living, they used to be like different, like diverse focused conferences. I'm not sure if they're doing it now virtually, but I should definitely take a look on that. One tool that I do use despite of social media is Counseling Today, like the website, like reading the articles and stuff. I actually had a client who she falls within the LGBTQ community, and being a Black person in the community, it's a lot of different things and judgment and stuff going on, especially being in an African household. So there was one article that I found online that was really, really helpful for me to like talk to her about it and kind of make her feel comfortable of being herself, being the person that she is, along with social media. So yeah, that's about it for me.
Thank you, Ngazi. So in your example, it was very important to you that you not only understood your client's culture, but to also understand that intersectionalities also affect us, and also
Yeah.
gives us a deeper understanding of the person.
Yes. And it was actually like really helpful for her because it was not only things that she taught me, but there were things that she didn't know about that that she learned about too. So it was a great way to kind of build a bond between us. So yeah.
I like for the advocating for the like I think like not only minorities but also like the different kind of populations. Actually, I have those kind of experience. Like I have my own NGO. Like I founded in in the last year of my college, just helping like Chinese international students to get the professional counseling opportunities, because of there are a lot of cultural gaps in being there, and also there are lots of like lack of resources and informations about that. So I actually did with my friend on this NGO, and yeah, we applied for NGO and we got approved like this year. And I feel like through working in this like experience, I just recognize that like how much gap is being there. Like I used to think like we're all in college, so the counseling center always being there, so we actually being able to get there. But actually, when I'm able to talk to a lot of like students who actually need counseling resources, I recognize that like how much lack of resources and how much, even though they can go to counseling center, but they cannot match the counselor who actually can help them. So like there's definitely a gap being there. And even, and also like about insurance, and also like the cost of money, and also like the um not like like their families not understand their needs of counseling, and also all those things are actually being there. And also yeah, and also like being a minority in like in the environment and how it actually feels. So I definitely know more about this after I actually being able to interacting with them more and listening to this listening to them, the stories of them more. So I do feel that like that's why I definitely agree with all everyone have said, like I need to like communicate with those people. Like actually like through the communication we can know the needs of the population better, so we are able to advocate for them better. And also like I wrote a lot of articles online, but a lot of them are in Chinese. But I do feel like writing articles to like actually use very simple words to write in, avoiding jargons, but just use simple words to actually describing the situations, describing like the underlying like um, phenomenon, or like those kind of professional things actually behind those situations. Actually being able to let everyone to know better about like whatever, like what the minorities actually experience and how we're actually being able to help them. So I think like, yeah, that's why I definitely agree with everyone said like interactions are really important, and advocating is through like, I think social media is also very like a very, very good way to be able to advocate. And also like we organize some like seminars to inviting like counselors to do like the lectures and things, just how, and also like all like if so actually we build a community. So we build a community for the minorities to connect to each other. So this is, I think, is also a very important and good way for us to be able to help and advocate for people who need help.
Xiao, hats off to you, to be able to have a NGO. Definitely a topic for another time, but just wanted to congratulate you on that major accomplishment. You said a word that honestly I haven't heard in a while, but I think it is, important we address that. It is the service gap is real. There, we are in the US, the most diverse, country in the world. And while we do have many services for many different cultures and ethnic groups and such, still there is a lot to do. And I'm wondering from you guys, what do you think we can do, even in our time, working from home, that we can keep working to lessen the gap so that all of our clients can get services?
I really like, and also want to commend you, Xiao, on all your work, and the benefits that that's really doing, and to kind of that's something. I'll be honest, that's not something I've personally thought of, but I think that's an amazing, to build that community is an amazing thing. Um, so to kind of help even in these times, and that's what they've found with the pandemic, is that building a community is really helpful. So whether it be an NGO or whether it be kind of like in what we do, kind of the free group sessions, trying to build communities that way, virtually, could even be helpful during this time.
Yeah, thank you everyone. And actually I want to say like we're actually doing. So it's not because we're not doing, we're actually doing, like we open like this morning group, like trying to welcome people who need help, like joining us. Actually, we are doing something. And sometimes like advocating is like in every part of our life. We're actually doing it. And it's not like, of course, I thank you very much. Like building this NGO is an unexpected and also like a very like powerful things for me and for my friends, like all of us who work together. But also like we do recognize that like it's helpful if we're able to help even one person. It's actually is meaningful. So actually, when we have more students actually coming to us, we just feel like we have like a mission to do, like as we are actually helping more people like in this process. And as I think like we're doing from small things, and actually small things are actually enough powerful to help those people, to help people who are actually need help.
Xiao, thank you for that very gentle but important reminder that you're right. We are advocating in so many different ways. And Brittany, I do like that you mentioned that, yeah, in a way, as we all know, it's been really, really tough that we don't have as much in-person time with others like we did. Obviously, we're eventually going to get back there, but not quite yet. I do like that you mentioned, being redundant. I like how you mentioned that we can use the power of the internet to create these groups. So say even for myself, I'm an Asian American, but under that, I am also a Filipino American. And with that being said, um, I've noticed a service gap here in Maryland. Really, here in the whole DC area, there really is not a lot of mental health services just for Filipino Americans. So what I did is just did my basic like research on Instagram, started following people, they started following back, all that good stuff. And then I ended up joining like this like networking group. I don't know if you guys have ever tried it, but it's called Gatherly. So it's kind of like Zoom, but even cooler. So it's like this big party, and then they like break out into different groups. And so what I'm trying to do, and all my like connections I've made are either in New York or California. I'm trying to like figure out what they're doing and eventually figure out how do I bring that to Maryland. So long story long, I think that the online platform is a very powerful tool in meeting people that we might have never had the opportunity to do before. And even something that I really appreciate about Frank and just the team is that he's really worked hard to like bring in a diverse group of employees. And I find that helpful so that we can get to know each other and where people have come from, and that we really have all come from very unique paths. I was just saying this the other day, but we're not a cookie cutter staff. We're not like, we look the same, we say the same thing, we have the same style. We're all very unique in a good way.
Just add something quickly. And I would say that one of the other ways to advocate is volunteering. So that's kind of how I wind up even in this field, even more so. But things that I was doing in my place of work, working at local 2-year college. And so I participated in different events with for the students. Like they have a step up program where you could kind of be a coach or some sort to the student, their first year in college, and just kind of being a support person for them. These were very diverse students, particularly most of them were like students of color, but I had other students. They were Asian Americans, Japanese, African American, Nigeria, different places. So I was very curious about the different cultures. So that was one of the reasons that I participated in that. But I learned a lot from them, just by being a part of that. They come into a new country, learn a new culture, just different things, just having someone to talk to. Also participating in like scholarship programs through the college. So I give to those different scholarships for different programs for like underserved students. And so that's one of the things I've continued to do and volunteer in my community. And that's how I find out what things are going on and what services people really need. And that's been ongoing. So I'm still just trying to expand and just learn even more. So I find that local advocacy is really important as well.
Yvonne, you bring up a good point that volunteering will always be there. Places are always going to need volunteers. They'll be happy to have volunteers. And interestingly, we are definitely at an advantage being here in the DC area. Really, any culture that you can think of, like cultural groups are somewhere in the DC area.
Yes, absolutely.
Does anybody else have anything to add?
I just kind of wanted to go back to Sial's reminder about kind of the little things that we do every day, and just take a quick second to kind of tie that into what we discussed earlier in the week about the compassion fatigue, and really taking a second to realize the benefits you are doing instead of constantly kind of push. And it's always good to constantly better yourself and grow, but when you don't take the time to really appreciate yourself, appreciate the little efforts, as Sia was mentioning, that can increase that secondary trauma and that compassion fatigue. So I did just want to point out a really good benefit there, and thank you, Sial, for bringing that up.
No problem. Thank you, Brittany. I do like your disconnection, like being able to give ourselves credits about what we're doing, and also like taking small steps, like not requiring us to like make a big step, like very like in a very short period of time, but also like see the accumulation of small steps. It actually can actually avoid what you said, like about the confession fatigue, and also helping us to like have a longer career in like to help. Actually, it's actually helping more people. And also I really like Yvonne said about like the volunteering, and I definitely agree. And I think like volunteering can actually help us like to actually let us interacting with people who actually need help in the first line, like directly. And we can help, like as we are interacting with them, we can know them better, and also like increase our like multicultural competence. And also like we are actually experiencing something with them. So I think and so we are able to understand a little bit more about their experience, rather than like reading the stories like online. Like we are actually witnessing, and we're actually experiencing something with them. So I think like I definitely agree with about like volunteers are actually great experiences of advocating. Yeah.
Thank you, Sio and Brittany. Way to really, bring it all back. I just not going to cry, but what you said was just a very special thing that you said. We do a lot, and there's still an incredible amount of space to grow, but you're right. I think that if we spend a little bit more time, praising ourselves and saying, we are walking this journey with our clients, instead of just, thinking, oh, we didn't do that. This wasn't this, just, thinking of the negatives, remembering that, we are walking on this journey with our clients, and we are advocating with them, whether we know it or not. Well, I see we're running low on our time, but I want to thank you guys for this awesome discussion, and all the work that you guys do. And I really appreciate in every one of you that, you really seem to carry out the mission of Lartey Wellness, and hopefully we keep growing.
Thank you as well, Pauline Joe. I really appreciate you leading this, and just having this discussion has really been very helpful, I know, to all of us, and really appreciate you. And everyone's participation. I have learned and gleaned something today, and so I have my little notes here. So thank you so much.
I agree. This has been great. I appreciate everyone in this group today and throughout the week. Pauline Joe, you're great. So kudos to you. And same thing that Yvonne said, like there's definitely things that I've learned and put in a different perspective based on everybody's feedback and advice. So thank you guys.
Well, I will definitely keep in touch with all of you through kind of like a group email. I was going to ask you guys about some literature you guys suggest, but that'll be a whole nother video. So I'll just save it for email. But Brittany, you had one last thing to say?
Oh no, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. I kind of like Yvonne said, I learned a little bit from everybody today, and it was a very enlightening discussion. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Pauline Joe. You're definitely a very inspirational leader.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely want to say appreciation too, like to everyone. Like it's a great discussion today, and also like thank you for Pauline Joe, your like leadership, like you're leading us and organizing this discussion. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you guys, and I hope you have a wonderful Friday.
You do the same. Bye.
Happy Friday, everyone.
Friday, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.